Hi, I'm Allie with PotomacBeads, and today's Better Beader is going to focus on threads. So there's lots of different options out there and lots of different brands, and I want to make sure that you create your project with your correct thread that you'll need to continue the project and make sure that you're making it the best. Continuing on with our Better Beader series, I have thread. So this kind of is actually almost putting a blog that Anna did to an actual video. She did a blog on the different types of threads and what is the difference between the different types of beading threads that you may come across, what to use in what situations, and really what the difference is. Because there's so many options here, I'm kind of like piling them up. So many different options for your different threads, and you may be familiar with some, you may not be familiar with others. So I wanted to go over the different threads, when you would use them, and what you would use them for. Generally, there are two different kind of threads. There is the bonded thread, and there is the nylon threads. So the bonded thread that I'm going to be introducing to you are the Wildfire and the Fireline. So Fireline and Wildfire, which come in some different colors. Fireline is going to come in a white or a crystal, the black, and then a smoke color and a satin smoke, which is nice because, or satin black rather, because the black doesn't come off like traditionally the Fireline was. The black Fireline I always tried to stay away from because the black comes off in your fingers. The Wildfire, I do not see that happening. The Wildfire does come in blue, red, gray, green, black, and white. The color that I go to 90% of the time is actually going to be the green color. Both of these are going to be that thermally bonded. What that means is that there's a notable difference, and the threads are actually bonded together. So that way when you're looking at, so I have a thick piece of thread here just to show you so you get this. So if you see a piece of thread here, you can actually see in this thread the little points in which it's kind of twisted together. This is just a piece of cotton, but I just wanted to show you to get the idea across. So it's a little piece of cotton, and you can see that it's fraying at the ends. The thermally bonded thread is going to resist that fraying at the end. So when you're looking at Wildfire or Fireline at the end, you're not going to see that fraying effect happen. You actually are going to want a thread zap or a cord cutter to burn down, which is going to create a little ball on the end of your thread. It helps for burning knots. And this is why I use this 90% of the time. It does have a conditioning or a coating kind of on it. And I like this because it's going to be really kind of impenetrable to needles, that your needle's not going to get stuck in the thread. It's also supposed to be break resistant. When you have crystals or you have bugles that cut the cord, or people say, you know, they really cut the cord, especially with one we'll touch on, which is Nymo, they're going to possibly cut the cord because they have a really sharp glass edge. I find very little breakage, very little fraying, and very little kind of splitting with the bonded and the thermally bonded. They are a kind of synthetic cording that they are both manufactured in the US, and they both have that they say micro-fused braided bead thread. So Berkeley is also just a fishing brand, so you know. So a lot of times this actually was not created for beading. The Wildfire was created for beading. But again, it's that thermally bonded beading thread. So it's almost kind of fused together in order to create that nice thread. That's going to be your bonded or your threaded. 99% of the time I'm beading, I am using these threads because of the style of beading that I do. I will also sometimes just do basic stringing with these. There's going to be different pound tests and different sizes. For the Wildfire, again, 99.9% of the time, I'm using the green color in 0.006. When I look at Fireline, I'm usually using the 8 pound or the 6 pound. I find the 4 pound incredibly, incredibly thin for the type of beading that I'm doing. And it has on it, that 6 pound is referring to the breakage. It's also the 0.006. I do think it's a little bit thinner than the 0.006 of the Wildfire. I do not use the 0.008 of the Wildfire. very often, unless I'm doing the Chandlu style leather and thread bracelets, because it is quite thick. It's hard to get back through beads multiple times. Same with as you go higher up on the Fireline, it gets thicker and it's harder to go back through the beads. Like the Wildfire and Fireline, the next threads that I'm going to talk about are also nylon. However, they are not thermally bonded. The one traditional type of string that I started using back when I started bead weaving years ago was going to be the Nymo beading thread. Nymo beading thread now drives me insane and crazy because it really does fray, and it really does have kind of a fraying effect when you are working with it. That being said, it's super inexpensive, it's easy to use, and it's easy to get started with it. When I work with any of these threads, if I'm not doing it for bead embroidery, I tend to take it through beeswax. The beeswax is going to condition it. It reduces the tangling like it says, and it's easy to do. So I pull the thread in my length through the beeswax several times, just kind of going right along there. And that's going to make it easier to thread the needle, and it's going to make it less likely to fray. The reason that I would use these threads here is because I want my project to have a little bit of a stretch. Whereas the Fireline and the Wildfire don't have a stretch, they are made to not really stretch that much. That being said, they'll stretch a little bit, just like they're not made to be able to fray, but sometimes they can fray a little bit. We're working with glass beads mainly. And the thermal or the nylon threads here that aren't thermally done, I like to do the beeswax because they do have a little bit of a stretch. They can come a little bit unfrayed. Back to again showing you kind of that cotton cording. You can see the texture in that cotton cording. You can get to the end of the cotton cording and seeing that fraying effect starting to happen. The same thing is going to be with these nylon cordings as well. So the Nymo thread, it has different sizes on the bobbins and different sizes that go with it. Basically, if you're going to use Nymo, it's the same as using a sewing thread. So keep that in mind. Sometimes if I do hand this off to my daughter or someone to play with, I'll even double the thread to work with it. Once I have kind of that Nymo out of the way, which some people still love, and I would say Nymo is used a lot for looming projects. So if you're going to do stuff on a loom, you want it to have a little bit of stretch, Nymo might be good for that. Other than that, I have some of the other kind of higher end brand names of the different threads that you may be looking for. We'll start with the 1G thread. So 1G thread is produced by the Toho company, and it's their thread that they prefer or that they suggest to use with the Toho beads. The Nymo or the 1G thread is going to be very similar to Miyuki's KO thread. So KO thread and Nymo thread are going to be incredibly similar. They're again the kind of best thing about them is the range of colors that they come in. When I do bead embroidery, I tend to want to use these because they are going to match wonderfully to whatever color palette and whatever color code I'm going. That being said, because they're not conditioned and they're not bonded thermally, they do have a little bit of a stretch for it. There are some designs for earrings or necklaces where that's not going to matter to me, but generally speaking for bracelets, I'm always using that Wildfire thread. Again, the awesome thing about the 1G and the KO, which again, exact same stuff, just to let you know, is going to be the fact that it does come in the color variety. Because it has that kind of stretch to it, it is great for the bead embroidery projects. I would much prefer that it has a nice smoother feel. Likewise, there's the Hana thread, and then there is the Sono thread, which the Sono thread and the KO thread, again, almost identical. They're just different sizes and different spools of bobbins. Same with the Hana thread. The Hana thread's going to be a little bit thinner than the Sono thread when you're working with it. Same deal if I'm using them, and I'm using them not for bead weaving. I'm going to take them through, or rather using them for bead weaving, I'm going to take them through the beeswax. If you do have some long fringe that you want to do or fringe earrings, these threads are actually great because they have a much more relaxed feel to them and a much more kind of soft actual flow to them than the Wildfire. The Wildfire Fireline are going to seem stiffer because they have that bonding going on versus the beading threads here that are going to seem a little bit more relaxed. Out of all of these threads here, the Sono thread is going to have the least amount kind of elasticity. I don't want to make you think that these are actually elastic. They just have a little bit of a bounce or kind of a pullback when you're working with them and see all of these threads together. The color variety and the color selection, again, is what I'm looking for when I'm looking into these beads. If I'm going to do some long fringe earrings, I had a friend that wanted to do that. I said, definitely go in and grab the 1G or the Hana Thread because it's going to relax and let the beads flow. They are thinner, generally speaking, than like a 0.006 Wildfire or Fireline, so keep that in mind for your projects as well. The different types of threads, too, are kind of like needles that depending on what you want to do and depending on the project, that is going to dictate what size thread you want to use and what you want to what you want your color to be. So keep that in mind as you look at the different threads. With all the threads, even the bonded versus the non-bonded, I still use my thread zap on them. Sometimes I even have people that will take, just so it doesn't tangle as much, their thermally bonded threads and put it through the beeswax as well. So that's an option also. Overall, I really love the texture and the kind of springiness and the satiny feel of the non-thermally bonded. The thermally bonded, again, for necklaces, bracelets, things with a little bit of weight, I prefer those. And then the Nymo thread, I kind of just put off to the side, and you can use that if you want, but again, make sure that you take that beeswax through it. Like a lot of different beading materials, whatever you start out using is generally what you like the best. But I would recommend trying out and getting a couple of these to try out the differences and working with them and see what you like. Try out a spool of Fireline, try out a spool of Wildfire, then pick one of the actual nylon cords as well to work with and try that out. You may surprise yourself. You'll also have it on hand in case you do want to get into a little bead embroidery and have fun on that as well. Just a reminder, if you do want to check out, Anna had a blog on this as well, describing some of the different threads that she used and what she found in her findings of using them and what they're best for as well. Again, the idea of these is to make you a better beader so that you know if you are doing a bracelet and it has crystals, you want to grab some Fireline or Wildfire thread. If you want to sew on to some ultra suede, you may want to pick up some KO or some 1G thread and work with that as well. So keep that in mind as you're picking your projects, which thread you want, what thread design you need, and what the drapage is going to be as well. And that's going to help to dictate and make sure that you get the correct materials for your project. Like always, if you need any of these materials, you can get them from us at PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu. We'll put little links below the video where the date is and has the video description and who it was created by. There'll be links to the different products that I listed in this Better Beader video as well. As always, you can stay connected with me via YouTube by subscribing to this channel. Give a little thumbs up if you like the video, if these have been helpful to you. Also, if you want to do anything in the comments, let me know what you would like to see in these Better Beader videos. I'm always happy to take suggestions to make sure to answer questions that our community has. And again, the idea is to make you better at this craft so you can make informed and intelligent purchases and decisions when you're getting ready to start making your project. Thank you so much for watching. Also, stay connected with us on Facebook and on Instagram. Facebook, you can also join our group for beading and jewelry making and get regular updates there too on the postings of the different videos and see an amazing group of people that love the art and the craft of making jewelry, all the things that they have to offer as well there. It's very, very awesome to see the community grow. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and have fun becoming a better beader and touching and trying out some of these different threads.